This will be part 2 of my Outlander Season 7, Episode 8 review. This is the mid-season finale, so if you are looking to avoid spoilers from the show or the books, please do keep on scrolling. Alright, so we left off talking about Rachel and young Ian and how great their chemistry is. This scene, I think, encapsulates how war can sometimes heighten everyone's emotions, and obviously that is the case with these two. Rachel is clearly curious and infatuated with young Ian and him with her, and he approaches her and kind of has this there's no turning back moment where he just decides to kiss her. And for Rachel, she's never had these feelings before. In the books, you get more of an internal monologue of hers, which I think is more fun. But to be honest, the character and the actress in the show does a very good job of kind of displaying those on her face. So you can tell that she's torn, because she would very easily continue to kiss young Ian, but it goes against everything that she stands for. Ultimately, Ian is respectful of her and says, no, I can't touch you again because we both know what will happen if I do. And her face in this was just perfect, like perfect. I loved the scene. I really am excited for where this relationship will go in the second half of the season because their storyline is really great. We won't see them together for a while, obviously, because young Ian is back in Scotland, but their storyline is one of my favorites in the books. When we're back with Jamie and Claire, we see Claire come face to face with Benedict Arnold, and I'm glad that the show gave a bit more context, because if you just saw him quickly on screen and then they just said, oh, that was Benedict Arnold, I don't think many people would sadly know the story behind him. But the introduction of this character is another way to gently remind viewers of the show that Claire and Jamie know the outcome of this war, and they're back in a very similar situation to Culloden, where they can't really do much to try and change it. They have to kind of turn a blind eye to some of the things that they know will influence the outcome of the war itself, and this man is a turncoat, and obviously that is something that for someone like Jamie is very hard to reconcile with, but also Claire having such a broad knowledge of what that actually meant, and she liked him when she interacted with him, so it kind of breaks her heart that he could do such a horrible thing when she found him to be such a likable person. But as we see at the end of the episode, Claire might have been the one to influence his decision with this conversation that they have right here. So once again, we find ourselves trying to figure out if Claire might be the impetus, or is just a cog in the wheel, or just a innocent bystander in all of these enormously important moments in history. So I really liked that this whole interaction between her and him got your brain thinking about, was it Claire who might have influenced him? We'll never know. As if I needed another reason to like the Hunters more, we have this adorable scene between Denny and Rachel trying to wrap her head around the kiss with Ian, and Denny almost saying to her, like, I know what's going on here, but you really need to think about the repercussions, because he's trying desperately to protect her, and if she marries young Ian, she would not be welcomed into their group. So I can understand his argument here, but he clearly, you can tell, is well aware that Rachel has feelings for him at this point, and he does her such a great honor of saying to her, I can tell him to never speak to you again. I can step in and be that authoritative figure that you need to speak on your behalf if that's needed. But I think we all know that Rachel is very similar to Claire and not afraid to be outspoken. Then we get this scene where Jamie sees that Daniel Morgan was also flogged by the British, and another parallel to season 2 where season 1 I should say, Jamie would go out for the rents and Dougal would use his scars on his back in order to rally up support of their cause and anger against the British, and we see Daniel Morgan doing that here. In the books, if my memory serves me right, he and Jamie have a little bit more of a conversation about this. It's actually what he uses to get Jamie to join the snipers. Obviously in the show they had it around a fire and Jamie finds out in this way, but I thought Sam Heughan's acting in this scene was really, really well done. You could tell with his facial expressions what that feels like to see somebody so sadly having gone through the same thing as you and being in the position that they both were in and are in now, where they just have to use it as fuel against the British. Then we finally get to the second battle. You can see the date here, and I really, really enjoyed this battle scene. Again, a lot of parallels to the shooting style and visual style of the battles from season 2, which were some of my favorites in the whole series, so I really, really loved that in this episode. This whole moment really was great for Jamie because we got to see that red Jamie fiery energy come out of him. But we also got to see that he, and I've talked about this in another episode review before, but he's such a different man now because he has people that depend on him. He's not this headstrong boy who wants to go to battle and fight. He has people that are depending on him. He has a son that's fighting across from him. He has a daughter whose future he's trying to protect. He obviously has Claire. And so when Daniel Morgan and Benedict Arnold are yelling at him to fire at Simon Fraser, unknowing that that is kin to him, Jamie, obviously, we see him go back to his roots where his values outweigh that of a battle, and sometimes you have to turn and look the other way, and he certainly does in this scene. But I thought this whole montage of Sam Heughan as Jamie was fantastic. So we see Simon Fraser doing what he does best, commanding his troops, and the snipers are able to see him from their vantage point and identify that if they take him out, then the troops will likely retreat, and so that is what they do. It is not Jamie who shoots him, and we see that obviously. But we see him, and I love this camera angle, we see him line up the shot knowing that Benedict Arnold is behind him telling him to shoot, and then purposely at the last moment shoot wide, which takes off the hat of his son, who he has been adamantly trying to avoid this entire battle. And it immediately breaks his heart. Like, kudos all around to Sam Heughan for this episode. Like, his facial expressions are just so good. Like, can you imagine shooting the hat off of your son, who doesn't know he's your son, that close to death, but then having to watch Simon Fraser, who you know is your cousin, be shot and leave the battlefield, and wondering if William is now going to get killed by somebody else. Like, so bad. And we see him carry that trauma all the way into the fort, and when they finally claim victory, Jamie is just so rattled. I wanted to give him a hug. Later on, when he tells Claire what happened, they're discussing everything that's going on, and you can tell that Jamie just cannot reconcile that it has come that close again with William, and he doesn't know what happened to him, where he is, if he's okay. And at that point, a British officer calls Jamie over to the British camp because Simon Fraser has requested that he see him before he dies. Claire tells Jamie almost immediately he doesn't have long, and we get this really nice moment where the two of them are able to speak Gaelic to one another and see each other as adults because, as they mentioned in the show, they hadn't seen each other since they were children. This poor man has seen so many of his kin fall. He almost killed his own son today. Like, this was a very stressful day for Jamie Fraser. And in the books, William is actually in the tent, and Jamie knows that and is trying to kind of hide his face and block his face, and Claire is also trying to kind of disguise Jamie from William because they look so similar. And in the show, they chose to have William outside of the tent and approach after the fact. And again, I really, really loved Charles as William in the show. The scene between him and Claire was so beautiful and well done, very similar to the books. And then we get the standoff between Jamie and him at the very end, which again follows the text very closely. I will start part 3 with that. You'll have to wait until tomorrow for part 3. I am sorry. Thank you guys for waiting for my review to come up. Like I said in my story that I posted, I went on vacation this week, so I was a little behind on posting. I hope you're not too mad, but we will come back for part 3 and discuss the end of the episode.